talking about the reason we're all here and the reason the For Life was founded, the transfer factors. We're going to give you just a quick little background through them so as we talk about the remainder of the product line, you'll have this kind of basis. And hopefully, in doing this, those of you that are a little more seasoned, I'm hoping to give you a little other ways perhaps you can help share and help other people understand what is really a rather complex molecule in a really complicated system in the body. And hopefully be able to do it in a way that everyone can understand, and bottom line, realize how important these are to your overall health. So let's start in the beginning. Transfer factors were not discovered by For Life. Now you saw the video in the beginning. This stemmed from a patent that David Lisby came across that nobody had really been able to commercialize. The transfer factors themselves were technically discovered by a man named H. Sherwood Lawrence. He was a doctor and a researcher at New York University back in the 1940s. And he was looking for a way to help protect people from illness. And he thought, how can I do that? Well, let's start with where the immune system is. The easiest place to collect it is out of the white blood cells that circulate through your bloodstream. He said, maybe there's something in these white cells that can be used as kind of a protection for people. And so his very first experiment, he took these white cells from a person who had survived tuberculosis, and he gave them to somebody who had never been exposed to the disease before. Now, most of you have had a TB test, either the one where they kind of poke you in the arm, or the other one that put a little bit of bubble under your skin. Right? They do that, come back a couple of days later. If it's red, then you've been exposed to tuberculosis. Then they do some x-rays and some other things to make sure that you're not actually sick with the illness. This is essentially what he did to these naive people. And he saw that, lo and behold, after a couple of days, they showed a positive response. Meaning that these people who prior had not shown any knowledge or recognition for that now did. So they had learned something. The immune system had gained some additional knowledge. Well, he took that, worked on it for a number of years, actually broke open those white blood cells, and ran them through some really fine filters that isolate out these small proteins. And he identified the size of the proteins that provided this benefit. And he called them transfer factors. They were factors that were able to transfer immunity. And so that's where the name comes from. That's how it all began. So now we have 70 some odd years worth of research, millions of dollars contributed by dozens, if not hundreds of different scientists. And depending on where you look, there's some references that say there's over 3,000 studies that have been done on these transfer factors. Now personally with For Life, we've been able to identify just about 2,000 of these so far, and have obtained copies of most of them. But there's a lot out there still to be discovered. So, what are transfer factors? Now, when he looked at it, he was looking at a specific molecular weight range. For those of you going back into your high school chemistry here, there's a measure called Dalton's. That doesn't really mean or matter much what that is, other than it is a means of measuring the size of molecules. And he found that transfer factors sat in this region between $3,500 to $12,000. And that's what he termed as transfer factors. Now, with further research, they narrowed that down so it seems like it's somewhere in the 6,000 to maybe 8,000 range is where the true transfer factor resides. But there are other immune compounds that fit in this same range and provide, in some cases, slightly different benefits. And obviously, transfer factors are something that your immune cells produce themselves. So this is something that's coursing through your blood every day, every minute of the day. This is one of the ways that your immune system uses to communicate between the different immune cells. So let's see how well you guys did in high school biology. Who can show me where their immune system is?
All over.
Can you point to it? No, just point to it. Don't wave your hand. Just point to it.
Everywhere.
Okay. You guys are like waving. What's going on here? It's all over you. All over you. Very good, right? Your immune system isn't like your heart in one place. It's not like your lungs. The immune system covers the entire body. Now, a majority of it actually sits within your gut. About 70% of all your immune cells are found within your gut. Another large portion is found just underneath your skin. Why do you think that is?
It's a barrier.
Okay, largest organ, that's a good answer. Any other thoughts?
To create a barrier.
The barrier, right? The skin is your first protection from everything out there in the world that wants to make you sick. What happens when you get a cut? You can get infection, right? It swells and red and painful and pus. That pus, that's actually those white cells that come out, right? They're being attracted to that area to help fight. And as they do their job and die, you create this pus. So that is your body responding to an infection. Now, 95% of the illnesses that you get throughout your life enter in through your mucous membranes. So that's your nose, your mouth, your lungs, your eyes to some degree. And so having a strong defense in those areas is key to maintaining your health. And this is why the majority of your immune cells sit in your gut, because that's the most likely place for these things to get in and cause an illness. Your skin, the same thing. Right? Any damage to your skin is an entry point for something. And so your immune system is localized in those areas for that reason. Okay. So transfer factors are also specific. Now you've probably heard that before. What that means is that when your immune cells come in contact with something, so let's do kind of an example. You have a type of cell that's predominantly found underneath your skin. It's called a dendritic cell. You don't necessarily need to remember that, other than it is like a sentry cell. Right? Its job is to just float around all day long, looking for things that look odd or that perhaps don't belong. When it finds something that doesn't fit, shouldn't be there, doesn't have the little signals on it that say, it's me, then what it does is it'll engulf it, digest it, and look for something unique. Actually, it looks for several things that are unique about that. And it will then create transfer factors for each of those unique characteristics. So if you have, say, a bacteria or something like that that gets in, that dendritic cell may create a dozen or more similar but different transfer factors. Each one specific to one of those characteristics that are identified in that potential invader. So when we talk about transfer factors, we're not talking about one single molecule. You're talking about hundreds, thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of different molecules. So one of the ways an analogy I like to use to kind of help you understand this is think of it as like a flower garden. Now, you have a flower garden, it has hundreds of different flowers, different sizes, different shapes, different colors, different petals, all that kind of stuff. But what's something that all flowers have in common? They all have a stem, right? And the stems are fairly similar across all flowers. There are a couple of minor differences, but there's always a stem. Transfer factors are much that same way. There is a portion of them, I think it's on this side, that is the same between all of them, and then you have this larger portion, which can be highly variable. And that's where that specificity comes in. And so the transfer factors give that specific information to your immune cells. Now, do the transfer factors interact with the bacteria or a virus directly? Anyone know? No, they do not. If you were to take a bunch of bacteria and throw transfer factors in, the bacteria would probably grow faster because they would have a free protein source. And transfer factors do not have a direct effect on any of that stuff. They work entirely through your immune cells. And so that's why you have to have a healthy immune system. It's your immune cells that are doing the work. They're just getting an education from the transfer factors. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
So what this ends up doing then is, think of it as kind of more like an alert. Right? So like a wanted poster in the post office. You walk in there and you look at it, you can see this individual that the police are interested in finding. This person has some unique characteristics. Eye color, hair color, height, body weight. Right? All that stuff shows up on the poster. Those are individual transfer factors. Right? Those are unique characteristics to that particular individual. Now, does that make you excited?
Yeah.
When you see that poster, are you suddenly scared or worried? Not necessarily. Not unless that's a person standing right behind you, right? But now you're alert. You're aware. You know what to look for. And it may not be something that you then spend the rest of your day focusing on. But if you happen to see that individual, it's going to trigger something with you, and you already know that, hey, that person's bad. Maybe you call the police. That's essentially the same effect that transfer factors have for you. Right? They've educated your immune cells. They now know what they're looking for. When they come across it, they don't have to sit and think, is that a good person or a bad person? Are they okay? Can I just go on? They know. And so they can begin the response right away. And that's the major advantage to having transfer factors, is you shorten that response time. So your immune cells don't have to spend a day or two trying to figure out, does this person belong? Do they have the correct flags and stuff on their cells? Is it part of me? Is it part of something else? They know right away, so the response begins much sooner. And when it comes to health and wellness, it's a numbers game. The more of the bad stuff you have, the sicker you get. The sooner your body can identify it, prevent them from growing further, the smaller the burden is, the quicker your immune system can take care of it. If it's able to respond fast enough, you may not even know that you're sick. Right? Because every single day of your life, your immune cells are fighting something. Every day. Whether it's something you breathe in, whether it's the own cells within your body that are having to misbehave, your immune cells are watching all of that and taking care of it if it's misbehaving or if it doesn't belong. So, the last little comment there, the 90 days, that's how long your education lasts, right? Immune cells have a finite life. They only live between 90 and 120 days on average. There's a few exceptions to that, but for the most part, that's the lifespan of an immune cell. So once they're educated, when they die, that education is lost. But your body is constantly making new immune cells. So every day, there's a whole new class that needs to be educated. So you can see why taking transfer factors on a daily basis is helpful. And you need to educate those new immune cells as soon as possible so that they too know what to look for and that they too can respond that much quicker. Okay, make sense? Any questions on any of this stuff so far? Can you take too many transfer factors? There's not really a short answer to that one. There is a point at which the benefits dramatically decrease. But that depends on where you're at in your life, your current level of health, how responsive your immune cells are. It's a very individual point. And so it's not going to be the same for everyone. But there's a point basically of saturation, where you've taken so many that it's like throwing 2 students into a high school of 300 teachers. Right? There's only so much those students are going to pick up, no matter how many teachers you throw in there. And the same thing goes to transfer factors. So there is a point where you can take more, and the only thing it's going to impact is your wallet. Right? But that's going to differ depending on where you are in your life and where your health is at that point. I can't give you a solid number, because it's going to differ for every one of us. Okay, good question. All right, so where do we get transfer factors from? This is an easy question. Most of you probably already know the answer to all of this. Transfer factors for 4 life are obtained from 2 main sources. First was the cow colostrum. This was the original patent that David Lisby came across. It actually was a patent filed by some of the researchers that had stemmed from Dr. Lawrence's original work. In fact, 2 of the researchers that have done a lot of transfer factor research. They hypothesized that there would be other places to find them besides white blood cells. And lo and behold, they come in colostrum. And this goes back to what Trent's kind of started off with this morning. And this is your first food. And the first thing you get as you're born, the colostrum that comes from your mother, is rich in transfer factors. The reason being, you have a very naive immune system in a newborn infant. It basically knows nothing. And so it has to be educated rather quickly in order for the baby to have a chance to survive in this brutal world that we're born into. And so that colostrum over those first 2 to 3 days is essential in educating that very naive immune system. So that's why it's nature's first food. So for us, we collect it from cows in the first 48 hours after calving. That usually is the first 2 milkings they get. And for the most part, that happens more often than not in actually the first 6 to 12 hours after calving. Although sometimes it might go a little bit later than that. The other source of transfer factors for us comes from chicken egg yolks. So you have the mammal source coming from the cows. Now you have an avian or bird-based source from chickens. Same thing goes, right? Chickens still need to have some kind of education to their immune system so that when they hatch, they're not going to be immediately infected and die before they even get a chance to start. And in this case, those transfer factors are concentrated in the yolk of the egg. Now, as you might guess, there's a difference in the transfer factors that come from cows and from chickens. The difference being, how often does a chicken get that information from its mother? One day, right? The day it's born. It doesn't nurse. It doesn't have any other contact with the mother to gain that knowledge. So it has to come all at once, all up front. And so typically you get a larger concentration of transfer factors in the chicken egg yolk, but you get it for a smaller set of items. Those things that are most likely to be a danger to the chick. Now, the calf, it's a different story. That can change over time as the mother's exposure to different things changes. And so you get a wider variety of transfer factors in the cow colostrum, but there's less concentration of them. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
So could you imagine potentially some synergies by mixing the two? Definitely. Right? You've seen that in the natural killer cell data, where you go from 204 to 283%. That's the synergy that occurs by mixing transfer factors from two sources. So for us, these go through a filter which limits it to 10,000 Daltons. That kind of puts us right in the middle of that range, and kind of the top end of what they've identified as the transfer factor problem. And then the nice thing about all this is it's only done through filters. So there's no chemicals involved, nothing harsh, no treatments that go through the colostrum. It's just a matter of taking it, running it through these filters, and collecting a concentrated source of transfer factors. Nanofactor is something we've added to the mix in the recent years. It is different. It's about half the size of the transfer factor molecules, made the same way. Goes through a simple filtration process to again further concentrate those even smaller components. Now it's different in that it doesn't have that specificity. So it's not going to provide specific knowledge to your immune cells. Rather, it helps to aid in the coordination. Now, how many of you understand how the neural connections in your brain work? I don't even have a clue. Okay. Your immune system is equally complex. You have dozens of different cells. Most of these have a couple varieties, a slightly different version that has a slightly different function within them. So T cells, there's about 7 or 8 different types of T cells. They all produce several dozen different compounds that are part of that communication network, transfer factors being one of those. And some of those are meant to last a long time. Some only survive a few minutes or a few seconds. Some are meant to go body-wide. Most are meant to stay within a localized area around that particular immune cell. But it's this huge mix of compounds going back and forth between cells, coming and going, lasting, moving, all of that coordinates your overall immune response from all these dozens of different types of cells. You see the complexity here? It doesn't take much for your immune cells to maybe get a little bit confused or take a little bit of time to figure out exactly what needs to be done. And so helping aid in the coordination effect is what nanofactors appear to do. This is something we're still actively researching and trying to get a better understanding about. But instead of providing that direct education, nanofactors appear to be more of a coordinating type benefit. So ultimately, you get a more efficient immune response. Does that make sense? The trifactor blend, pretty straightforward. It's a mix of all three of these. And that's what you'll see on the label. And the transfer factors from colostrum, from egg yolks, and then the nanofraction molecules. And just like many other things, this is one of the main things we have applied for is a patent to protect that combination and make sure that that remains exclusive to 4Life. Okay. So, if you remember nothing else from what I said tonight, these are your take-home points. The key one, made by the immune system for the immune system. There are a lot of things out there that report to benefit your immune system. Many of these things have some very well-documented effects. And I don't want to diminish the value of those other ingredients because many of them are also in Transfer Factor Plus. But transfer factors are unique in that they alone come from your immune cells. You're not going to find anything else out there that's specifically made for your immune cells. So that's one thing that dramatically differentiates what 4Life has to offer from what everyone else offers. And we talked about the specificity. Again, another differentiating factor. You talk about beta-glucans and some of those other things, they're non-specific stimulants. They just make the immune cells more active. They may do their job a little faster, a little harder, but they're not giving a specific direction. That specificity helps make sure that your immune system is doing what it needs to do. There are times when your immune system gets confused and starts attacking things that it shouldn't, like some of your own tissues. If you take a generalized immune stimulant like beta-glucans, it's going to make that worse. It's just taking that misdirected response and adding to it. But transfer factors are saying, here's what you need to look at. And your immune cells then direct their focus where it needs to be and not on things that aren't an actual threat. Okay? So negative diagnosis for sure, we talked about that one. And then the last one, talked numerous times about this over the years. The three main functions you see with transfer factors is it helps to recognize, respond, and remember. Right, so I talked earlier about that recognize one. The sooner it identifies it as a threat, the sooner your immune cells can begin the response, the less of an immune hurdle the body has to overcome to maintain your health. The response with the nanofactor helping in that coordination then is aiding with the efficiency with which your immune cells work and helping again to speed that response and hopefully take care of things before you begin to feel the symptoms of illness. And then remember, it's constantly helping to keep those immune cells alert to things that might be a threat. So that, again, it can shorten that recognition phase. So you've got kind of a nice little cyclical thing going on supporting your immune cells. Hey, any questions on any of that? One over here.
Can you go to the slide before this one?
Oop, too far. That was it. All right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, with that, it's time to wake everybody up. We'll bring Brian back up on stage.
Well, I'm sorry, you guys. I missed pretty much all of that. I was actually reviewing my notes to see if I had any jokes in my set that were better than the squirrel in a suit joke. I don't have any. What I do have is a love for transfer factor. I shared a little bit of that with you in my journey to 4Life and how I was enamored by transfer factor, this amazing immune system communication molecule that communicates and helps the body, what is it? Recognize, respond to, and remember right? And it didn't take me too long at corporate, bouncing around and studying things to realize that we are all transfer factors. And I want you to think about that for a minute. If this molecule communicates important immune system information from one entity to another for that entity's benefit, then aren't we all transfer factors for 4Life? When we share this message, whether it's the products or the opportunity or our foundation, we are acting as communication tools for 4Life. So in that spirit, I'd like each of you to turn to your neighbor, and you've learned some stuff here tonight. I learned some things. And practice for a minute sharing what is transfer factor to the person next to you, as if it were the first time, and it's your elevator pitch on transfer factor. So go ahead, turn to the person next to you, and then we'll switch. So 1 minute, and then we'll switch. You can use your...
Alright guys. Hey guys. So, what is transfer factor? First of all, what Dr. Vaughan shared was just really awesome and amazing information. You guys definitely need to incorporate this in your business building. It seems like it's going to be a great tool to utilize. So let's just go ahead and summarize transfer factor again. You know, one of the big things this company always shares is how to recognize, respond, and remember. That's what transfer factors do. But one thing that I love, and this is something that I like to explain transfer factor like, and that is that transfer factor is just like us. It's just like a friendship in your body's immune system. Communicating, it's getting an understanding of what your body needs specifically, and then it's helping your body to do that. So anyways, there you go. Let's switch it back over now.
5 seconds. And let's bring it down to silence again, if you would. Back down to silence. Very good. So I heard some of your plans to go to some popular honky tonks tonight. But did anybody actually talk about the transfer factor? Okay. Now switch and take the other role. So the other person, give your best pitch for transfer factor for another 45.
Hey guys, it's Caitlin's turn now.
Okay, so if I was to run into someone and tell them what transfer factor is, I would probably just tell them that they already have it in their body. It's something that they get from their mother if their mother was to breastfeed them, and it's just transferring the knowledge of the immune system, the transfer factors, to the immune cells, just like Dr. Vaughan just shared. And I think that would probably just be my short, sweet, and to the point.
Yep, very good.
5 seconds. Okay, thank you, very good. Let's bring it back down to silence. Thank you very much. So we practiced among yourselves, but I want one couple, one pair that feels really confident. Like you did a good job, you have something that you feel like that you have this message in you that you can kill it. Like you can come up and you can be an example of how to share transfer factor. I'm not trying to build you up so much that you're still humble, you're not going to come up. But I want somebody that feels like that they have a good grasp on what this is, and then maybe you learned something else new tonight, and you can come up here and model what a good interaction on a transfer factor intro is. So who feels,
Look at her confidence though.
where could this person be? You know. Okay, I will be your first.
Okay, first of all, it's very nice to meet you. What's your name? My name is Lauren. Very nice to meet you, Brian. So, this is what I'd like to share with you. You know, our immune systems are so vital in our daily lives. What I like to explain about transfer factor is something very simple, and that is what's important in a friendship or relationship. What are some important points? Communication. Correct communication, right? That's very important. Well, that's just as important in your immune system. Sometimes it gets a little chaotic. Have you ever been to a Thanksgiving dinner?
Yes.
Do you have those family members that sometimes, you've got those little kids running around and you're like, I don't know what to do right now. that happens, right? Well, sometimes that happens in our immune system too, because we're exposed to pollution on a daily basis. We're exposed to so many things we're not supposed to be eating. I don't know if you go to McDonald's and get a Big Mac. Guilty. I've done that. Big order fries. But our immune system is exposed to so many threats. And so I have a great product that I'd love to share with you. This product is something that has made a difference in my life and so many lives around the world. And this product is something that's going to get to know you on a personal level. This is something that's going to intimately get to know exactly what you need, just like a friendship. It's going to get to know you over time. And you're going to be able to live your best health. I guarantee it. Because it knows exactly what you need. Would you like to learn more?
Wait, there's more, young lady. What's your name again? Lauren. Okay. Lauren, thank you for doing that. Give her another round of applause. I thought that was fantastic. I'm going to award you with my personal favorite way to get transfer factor. I know this is kind of like adolescent-like, but I think it's my favorite way to get it. And then also, if you're generous, you could maybe pass them out to your friends around you. So anyway, thank you again for participating.